Hey everybody, Chris Collard here, Gone Jeepin'. I'm in Moab, Utah with my friend Rory Irish from Trailmater.
Yes, officially Trailmater now.
Yeah, officially Trailmater.
Yeah, no longer Moab Motorsports.
What happened to
We're trying to phase out Moab Motorsports.
We're going to get to that. So, I know you guys I met Rory a couple years ago. We were out here, we did a couple trails together, did some photography, and Rory, you were like looking at how to get into the YouTube thing. You worked with Matt.
Yeah,
People want to know about this.
So I started watching Matt. A lot of people go like, I found you through Matt's channel. Matt's Off-Road Recovery. Like, I found you through Matt's channel. It's like, I found my channel through Matt's channel. You know, that's how that came about. But so I was watching Matt's channel and I was like, man, we do recoveries, we do stuff like that. Why can't we film it? And so we started filming a couple things. We started filming some of the stuff and we put some videos out, and I knew nothing about YouTube. So like I didn't know to get my channel monetized or to do anything with it. I thought I was just putting videos out and was like, yeah, cool, whatever. You know, this is cool. People are seeing it. And it was mostly family members and Facebook friends and stuff that seen my stuff. And then actually Matt reached out to me when I was in Hurricane one time for Winter Jamboree. He's like, hey, I hear you're in town. You got to swing by. I want to meet you and I want to see your truck. And it was like, you know me? And he said, you know, like, he's like, yeah, I've had people come in and they're like, well, you must know Rory. He does the same kind of stuff in Moab. And so then we kind of back and forth, and he really pushed on it like, man, your truck's really cool and people want to see it. You've got to start filming more. You've got to start doing this. And I was like, all right, you know.
So I remember, this is when, just before we met, you guys did a recovery like on a UTV with your trailer, like up on this crazy canyon trail.
Yeah.
And you had pulled it out, and I know that Matt did a video on it, and you're like, holy moly, we got like another 1,000 subsubscribers at the time.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a big thing.
Yeah. Well, we've done a couple, like what was it? I helped the Diesel Brothers out. Like right as I was starting, I helped the Diesel Brothers out. And then they did a thing, a walk around to the truck and everything, and then gave a shout out to my channel. So then that boosted it up. And then Matt did one where I helped him with a couple recoveries, and he's like, you got to check this guy out. And then that skyrocketed it, and just, it's all in the interaction. And that's the cool thing about YouTube. If you can find the right people to work with that try to help you grow your channel, it's amazing. But then you get people where they're real competitive and they're like, oh, well, he's doing the same thing and I don't want to help him, or I want to take away from what he does. Then you both lose. Because anybody can
to go around.
Yeah, anybody can do YouTube. Like, nobody's stealing something from someone else. Everybody's doing their own thing. And so you just do it. And it's super cool, like when you can find channels and people that want to just work with you to work with you. And that's Matt and a lot of the other, like we now call, what was it? I've heard this thrown around, like the Utah YouTube Mafia, and like all this stuff, because we've got like Fab Rats, Robbie Layton, me, and Matt, and the Diesel Brothers. They're all in Utah. And we all kind of work together and just do stuff, do what we do, but then occasionally do stuff together and whatever. And it builds everybody's channel up, and it's not hurting anyone.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you though, before we talked about Moab Motorsports, you just didn't fall out of the sky and land in Utah 5 years ago.
No. I fell out of the sky a long time ago and landed.
You grew up here.
I was born and raised here. I grew up here. And then about 7 years ago, I decided to move back to Moab. I was living in Colorado and kind of wanted to change things up and just change everything around. So I decided to move back to Moab. But I had an idea of doing like a recovery company in Moab. Because Moab it's such an iconic place, and there's so many people that come here and they break on the trail or whatever. I was like, man, if you had a phone number where someone could call you and be like, hey, I broke a drive line. I did this, I did that, you know, and then you bring parts out and you help them. And I had this idea, but it was like the hardest part of implementing that idea was you would have to you would have to establish yourself, and that's what would take the longest. So I decided to move down here, and I was working for the off-road shop, and they did trail recoveries and repairs and stuff. And I was like, cool. So, you know, same kind of, so I could kind of see how it went and see what they did and stuff like that. And then they decided to shut their shop down. So I decided to start my own. But I had this truck, and I was like, I have an idea of like making a truck that's specific for off-road recovery, where it would have a welder on it, it would have this. And I had the littlest boom on the back for like moving toolboxes and axles and stuff around. And somebody seen it and was like, hey, is that an off-road tow truck? Not yet. And it's like, you know, but it was kind of all those little seeds and ideas. And like I said, I used to work in the oil field, and I used to run a bed truck. That's where a lot of my winch configuration and the chains and everything came from.
So explain what a bed truck is.
Like in the oil field, you've got a big semi that's got a flatbed on it and winches, and you'll winch stuff up onto it to move it around for the oil rigs.
All rigging.
Yeah, and it's all, you're using something smaller than what you're trying to move something. So it's all forces, physics, pulleys, all rigging and getting stuff to move that's heavier than you need it to, all with winches.
So did you have any like formal training in the oil industry on rigging and how to use all that equipment?
No.
Trained by other guys that were with you?
Yeah. And actually the company I was running the truck for, they bought the truck and nobody knew how to run it. So they were like, anybody want to figure this out? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Earn while you learn?
Yeah. And like I said, it's mostly self-taught, but I used to be a pipeliner. So that's why my welding leads are set up the way they are, and just little intricate things on the truck are all from stuff I've learned over the years and wheeling and jobs I've done. But I kind of started setting the truck up as just a recovery rig. And that's what kind of spiraled into the truck becoming what it is.
Well, Trailmater, I'm loving it. I know you love it. It's like,
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's walk around.
All right.
Tell me about it, and tell me about, like, you had a little bit of a bad accident a couple years ago.
Yeah, it got what most would have considered totaled. I know it looks bad anyway, but we were doing a job, and
So, guys, Rory's phone is always ringing.
is Rory off cliffhanger? I'm getting about every other word. Did the ball joint break or the knuckle break? What vehicle is it? Yellow. I'm losing you. Yeah, they'll call me back in a minute. Ball joint broke on a rig up cliffhanger.
Okay.
So that one, given the trail, we'll probably go in and repair it to drive it out. This is Rory. Yeah. So what vehicle is it?
And it's all the way out past the cliffhanger obstacle.
So it's all the way at the top. We're gonna have to go in tomorrow and get it, and we're gonna have to go in and repair it and drive it out.
So the phone rings quite a bit.
Yeah, the phone's always ringing.
Where were we?
The crash, when I wrecked it.
I remember there was a GoFundMe thing. Like,
Yeah, it was crazy that the support that I had all of a sudden. Like, people were starting GoFundMes. I had to cancel that really quick because that was just out of control and crazy. And I have so many people try to help me, and it's weird to me because I'm gonna fix the truck. Like, I'm not gonna leave it broken or wrecked. I'm gonna fix it. So I had the truck back up and running before I ever seen a dime from the GoFundMe account. Because, like, yeah, it helped, and of course it did, and it was awesome to see that kind of support. But it was like, I'm gonna rebuild the truck no matter what. But it didn't fare super bad. I mean, I trashed the front, and of course the hood's now creased, which I left because it tells a story, and I love telling stories with the dents. And the funny thing is, a lot of people go like, how'd you get this to look like this? It looks like it rusted in the desert. I'm like, that's what I did. I washed this truck more than anything I own.
So how long have you had Trailmater?
It has been with me probably about 10 or 11 years. My buddy bought it, and it was a Chevy truck, had a lift on it, and this right here is the only dent that was in the truck when he called me and said, I want to build a rock crawler. And I
A little
said,
divot on the nose.
yeah, and I said, okay. And I said, what are we using? He goes, the Chevy. And I was like, all right. I said, you know we're going to cut it up, right? He's like, I don't care. I've been trying to sell it. Nobody will buy it. Nobody will pay me what I want for it. And he loved going out with me in my Jeep. So he's like, I want to build a crawler. So I had this laying around. This is a bumper for a TJ.
Okay.
It used to have seats out of a YJ. It had a fuel tank out of a YJ. The roll bar on the back of it, the main hoop, is a factory CJ roll bar.
So you went out to the back 40 and you just kind of scavenged.
Just started grabbing parts I had laying around and was like, let's build this.
That's awesome.
And so he had it for a while and crawled it. And that's actually where he did this. I didn't.
Okay. I'm taking credit for that.
Yeah, so, but I mean, he wheeled it and wheeled it hard. And it would do everything all over the place, whatever. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to sell it. I got to get out of the sport. I'm going to sell it. And I'm like, well, if you sell it, nobody's going to pay you money for it. All they want is the front 60 and maybe the big block. That's it. So they're only going to give you $1,500 for it. So he goes, well, I need a commuter vehicle. So I had an old full-size Bronco. And I was like, I'll give you this if you give me that. And he's like, all right. Again, I was like, you know, most of the parts on it are mine. So, like, let's work out a trade deal. So I traded him for it. And then it was just my backup crawler. It was my fun little rig, whatever. And then I put a pole on it with an ATV winch on the back. And I was moving motors and axles and stuff around the yard. Wow, gotta love that. Gotta love that. But I was moving axles and motors around the yard with it. And then I put a little longer pole on it to pick up my toolboxes to move back to Moab. Like, that was the whole purpose behind it.
Moving the toolbox.
Was I had to move the toolboxes. And so I got here and everybody's seen it. Like, the pole used to fold up against the cab. And so then I'd wheel it and it didn't look like a tow truck. And then I folded the pole out one day and somebody's like, is that an off-road tow truck? And I was like, well, it's not really a tow truck. It's just to move stuff around. But then it kind of escalated from there, and I worked for the old shop. And there was a broken rig up on Poison Spider. Same thing, broke the knuckle off and didn't have a wheel, and they needed to get it down during Jeep Safari that day.
And you got the call.
Yeah.
Bring it back. I want to tell us about the
Yeah.
pole and all your winching. So you got like a half dozen or so winches.
It's
on
got 6 winches on it. 3 out the rear, 1 out each side, 1 out the front. So originally, like, and you can kind of see the bed truck rigging and setup, because on the bed trucks they double stack their winches.
Right.
1 an auxiliary, 1 a main. So that's how those kind of got set up. And then my auxiliary one, I would run it through here for an extra winch to pull a rig to me. And it just was always in the way and wasn't working, so I added this one.
3 off the tail.
Yeah, and so now that one's just an auxiliary one. But these are my 2 main ones that I use for lifting and pulling a rig to me. And then
1 on each side.
1 on each side.
Front.
Yeah, which the ones on each side were a funny story, because I had a spot here and it was kind of opened up, and I was like, I should put a winch here. Somebody's like, why? And I'm like, well, the trails in Moab are real narrow. So if you needed to get down to a rig that was off the trail over here, you'd have a side winch. And they go, well, what if you hook onto it and you pull it and it starts pulling you over? I said, I'll put one on this side and run it up to something, as a joke. And I put those on, and those winches get used so much.
So I want to take a segue here. Don't let me forget where we were.
Okay.
But I saw one of your videos called like Taco Over or Taco Down.
Oh yeah, Taco Down. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. He was like straight off the edge
Yeah.
of the canyon.
Toyota Tacoma went off the edge of Spring Canyon.
Yeah. He had 3 rigs on it.
Yeah. We had my 2 wreckers, and then we had Mike's as backup, and we ended up having to use Mike's to like to help pull it, but then hold it while we repositioned another truck. But we had 4 winches, 5 winches at one point, because he has a rear winch. So we had the 2 winches off of this, 2 winches off of that, and that winch. And so a lot of people say, you know, electric winches overheat, which they do if you're working them hard. So that's why, like, being able to spread the load out over multiple winches, you can pull longer and more steady. Plus, if one has an issue, you've got extra backup. That was the whole reason for that truck.
Distributing the load. Now you had to get your rig 90 degrees to the side of the trail,
Yeah.
off of the edge of the canyon to start the pulling.
Yeah. Which luckily that was a pretty good road.
You ran snatch blocks from either side, centered on
Yeah.
your rig down the hill as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a lot. We had a lot of rigging and a lot of stuff going on that one.
Bet you is that what? Tell me about one of your most memorable like recoveries. Something that crazy made you feel good. They start to blur together.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, and every one of them is fun because that's what I love about it. What I love about doing this is there's no 2 are the same. Like, even if you have a rig broke down in the same spot with the same issue, there's so much that goes into it, getting it out, and it might have rained, or this might be different. Like, every time you go get a rig, there's a different factor. And I love that. I love having to think a problem to a solution.
Keeps life interesting.
Oh yeah, it's a great
Sitting
time.
at a cube.
Yeah, oh, big time, big time.
Let's keep going around. Talking about the
Like I said,
rig.
the airbags, the bump stops, just everything.
Rear axle. What do you got?
Yeah, this is a Dana 80 out of 01 Dodge Dually. I had a 14 bolt in it, which everyone says the 14 bolt is the strongest axle out there. I finally got sick and tired of breaking everything on a 14 bolt. I sheared it at the leaf spring, like the tube,
Yeah.
and when that broke, I was done with 14 bolts. But you're also, I mean,
In 80, can't go wrong.
yeah, and I mean when you're carrying a rig out, so you've got a 7,000 pound 4-door JK behind you that you're picking up, and then you're carrying it over obstacles with 37s. You're putting a lot of stress on these things.
And the drag, yeah.
Oh yeah, but like everything about this truck has been, well, let's try this, and then you try it, you see if it works. Like the traction bar, the bump stops, the airbags, like everything about it has been like, let's try this, and it's like, okay, that helped, but it hurt us here, so let's tweak it, and like everything about it has been, let's try it, and it's been a fun experience because, like I said, there is no set way to do this. Like, so many people see this truck and they're like, oh, well, you know, I used to do off-road recovery and that'll work, but what you need to do, and what I started telling people is, you know, for about the first couple years I was doing this, I took suggestions. Now, I don't care what you say. Like, we get out there and we do this, and we know what works and what doesn't. Because I've broke so much stuff trying to get this to where it is. Like, I love everybody with the tow bar, because like everybody says, like a tow bar, like a solid mount you need to have. But
Rental or something.
yeah, but I have these X straps that I hook up when I'm carrying a rig behind me. Keeps it from swaying, it lets it move, but it's flexible as you're going over obstacles. And so many people think of like off-road recoveries like dirt roads and stuff like that, where you're going along, and that's why I have my other truck that has a traditional wrecker sling and it works great. But when you get off on the trails and you're doing a 3-foot ledge, you can actually park that rig on top of your rig because of that hard point.
Right.
And so,
Control the descent.
yeah, it just doesn't work. I've built 3 or 4 of them that I'm like, well, you know, if we just tweak it here, it will work. Every one I've broke is destroyed and laying out back because the hard bar just doesn't work for this style recovery.
What do you call that? Call that an X, kind of X configuration?
Yeah, I just call them my X straps, but like I said, one goes this way and one goes this way, and I learned that from hauling a rig I was hauling a side-by-side off of LaSalle Mountain, and it was a narrow trail, and I had my side winches. I had it run over here, and I had it run through the here to hold it, and then I had it run to this side of the vehicle. And I had this one running to this side. And so when you go through a little spot and it tips up, the pole moves way more than your tire does, you know? And so it would actually hang the vehicle over here. So I was running my winches inside, and when I would tip over, I would move the vehicle over so it would track behind me. And I started doing that. I was like, this is really working. So that's when I went back and I started doing straps across here, because then it'll swing, but it only lets it swing a little. And it keeps it behind you, and it works. Like I said, it works really good. But it was that whole, we've got to figure out what works. Because I had all this stuff. I had a sling right here that just went to the vehicle, but then it would sway all behind you. And when I did that with the winches where I could adjust them, I was like, oh, this is the way to go. So,
but these are fixed.
Yeah, these are fixed.
They still work.
I've gotten them to the point where it's like, okay, this is the length I need. And then I've tried multiple sets with this. Like, if you come down a couple chain links, it keeps the vehicle a little farther away from you and gives you more room. Picks your front tires higher. Literally 2 chain links up, keeps the front end planted on the truck, keeps you the right distance. You get close and you sometimes swing into here, but nothing bad. So that's also why this boom is still cable. Everything else is synthetic rope. But if you swing into here, I want something solid and not get abrased or cut or anything like that. I love the synthetic ropes, but in this configuration, just for the boom, I stay cable.
Right. Each has its specific purpose.
Yeah.
Great idea. And you got your shovel, your small little cooler, just a plethora of snatch blocks.
Yeah, you never know when you might need to pull from a different direction.
And you said you got a welder. I see the welder under the kicker panel.
Yeah, we've got onboard welder, onboard air, water, tools. We've got hand tools. We carry spare fuel pumps, carry U-joints. I have a bunch of bolts, because I've literally found where we can bolt something back together. The aluminum steering knuckle that snapped the other day, we actually took aluminum rod out with us and welded it back together and then made a steel cage to go around it. Then we bolted and tapped it to the aluminum knuckle to keep it from popping back off, so then he could drive off the trail. Because like I said, it's easier to drive a rig off than it is to carry a rig out.
So I see like a whole new YouTube channel for you on just like trail repairs.
Right.
Or a subset of
Trailmater. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, you got to get creative.
Oh yeah, you've got to get definitely creative.
Broken springs to bigger stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, all sorts of things. But I mean, I carry spare shackles for the front, and I've never had to use them for shackles, but if you lay them over sideways like this, if you lay them like this, you can clamp a broken leaf spring back together with bolts. So
coming through it like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just take like the front shackles,
Right.
sandwich it like that, tighten it with bolts and smash it, drive off the trail.
Great idea.
Because I've had springs break on this, and you can't have the recovery rig broken.
It's not your main spring.
No. Well, like I said, like I broke an axle shaft.
Right.
And so I decided.
14?
No,
On the 80?
the 80. I broke an axle shaft. So I was like, well, we broke an axle shaft. Let's upgrade. Let's go chrome moly. Put chrome mollies in, and I broke 3 axle shafts in 2 months. The chrome mollies are just too brittle. They're too whatever. So we went back to factory, but they're equal length both sides, so I carry one. Got it bolted in there. But like it's that whole thing. I broke an axle shaft once.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, which you can break a front, and most of the trails you can drive out with rear. So
I remember riding around this thing. This was really fun. A couple days.
It is probably the
Get some new seats.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is probably the smoothest leaf spring rig that you ride in.
Like a little buggy.
Yeah, it's very smooth considering.
Well, this is so cool. Anything else you want to add?
Just like
super jazz. The whole backstory is cool.
well, like I said, we did the Wrecker games last month,
Oh yeah, well no, wait, segue.
Oh, okay.
So I'm out with Rory a couple of years ago, and he was telling me about Matt's off-road recovery, and he was trying to get into the YouTube thing. So I pulled out my camera and riding along up, I don't know what trail we were on, but and I'm like, I put my camera up. I'm like, all right, Rory, tell us what's going on. He's like, I don't do that. And I was like, well, you don't want to talk. He goes, I don't do any of that. And I put my camera down. And I'm like, people probably want to hear what you have to say, and if you're going to be on YouTube,
you got to talk.
You got to open your mouth.
Yeah.
Tell me about 6,000 people.
Well, so Matt decided to build a wrecker. He seen what this was doing, and we went out on a few jobs, and he kind of seen like, hey, this has a reason. And most of his jobs are sand, stuff like that, pulling people out. But he wanted to expand into that because he gets called out in Sand Hollow to get a lot of stuff. And they were doing some really weird, like he was doing, like he'd take a car hood out and skid a vehicle out to where they could get it on a trailer, and then they have a trailer that they'll drag on the trails and all this. So anyway, he decided he wanted to build a wrecker. He was building a wrecker, another guy's building a wrecker. There's a couple other YouTube guys that have wreckers. And so Matt was like, hey, we're gonna do a competition with the wreckers. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then it just kind of spiraled out of there, and then channels started talking about this off-road wrecker games that we were gonna have, and it blew up into this huge event. And I think they sold over 6,000 tickets for people to come out and just watch this get-together of off-road wreckers kind of competing against each other. But the way Matt set it up, it was absolutely the most fun I've ever had at any competition I've been a part of.
So good! Yeah!
Oh, yeah, we got it here.
Oh, cleared it.
Nice.
What's on my mind the most right now is how amazing it is that you guys all came out to watch this. This is super cool, and thank each and every one of you. This is cool. Mostly here we're here to have fun, and it's going to be a blast. That being said, we're going to do what we do every day of the year and drag a disabled vehicle through a trail. And I've had a lot of fun events, but like that one, so the judging was so hilarious. Like they had a bunch of judges that were going to judge everything. Then each team, there was 5 teams, each team was given $100 and $1 bills to bribe judges.
Say, what are the qualifications?
Yeah, you
bribes.
Well, so each dollar was equal to a point. And you were allowed to bribe their judge to take away points, or you could bribe your judge to give you points. It was so hilarious.
Your own judge. You
Oh, yeah.
brought your own judge with you.
No, they supplied the judges. They were all other YouTubers.
They weren't biased in any way.
Oh, so biased. It was so hilarious. It was so funny, and it was just, so that was the thing, is so many people are like, I can't believe so-and-so didn't win, or this didn't win, or that didn't. It wasn't about winning or losing, it was about giving the people that showed up a show. Because they want to see what we do, what they see us do on YouTube. They want to actually watch it. And like, they were out at Sand Hollow, so they had a shuttle system that would take people out. So the entire trail where we pulled people was lined with people that showed up to watch what we do. So it was absolutely awesome. The whole event was just a lot of fun. But yeah, I did have to get up and talk a few times in front of the entire audience. And so that was a whole nother thing. And getting over that whole talking to a crowd, I'm working on it. I still get severe anxiety, but it's so much easier when the group is there, like the people that stopped by here and the people that went to that event, like everybody wanted to be there. So that makes it so much easier to talk to people that are excited to meet you, that want to talk to you, that aren't there to yell because you charge them too much for working on their vehicle. Like, it's a different dynamic than owning a shop, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. It sounds like Glamis sand drags or something, but with wreckers.
Right, and that's exactly what it was. Like, we had a welding challenge, and a flex off, which a flex off in a tow truck would.
Like an RTI ramp.
Yeah, but what do those points matter? What does it really like? It doesn't say how well it does off road. It's just for fun, because then everybody got to stand around and watch their favorite truck drive up on a ramp. We had a dyno, and like we put this on a dyno, but then we pulled it on it and it wouldn't fit. It was too wide for the rollers. But we run duals, so we overinflated the inner duals to ride on the rollers, and then the outer ones just floated in the air. So we got points for creativity on that. But this bad boy did 188 horsepower to the rear wheels.
Ooh.
Yeah.
188.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Through
Might
30.
put my CJ ads.
Through 37s and factory gearing. It's got 410 gears in it.
So what's under the hood again?
454.
454.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Let's pop the hood. We do that? Oh. Same engine you had before the incident, right?
Yes.
There it is. I remember the oil cans.
Yeah. I've got oil,
88 horsepower, 454.
oil and fluids. We've got brake fluid, antifreeze, gear oil, engine oil, ATF, power steering fluid, all stashed under here. Because like everything about this truck, I try to set it up to where weight is forward of the rear axle. And like when I did this motor swap, I ditched the cast iron manifold, intake manifold and exhaust manifold. So I lost like a couple 100 pounds. So I welded 2-inch solid bar across here and then 1/2-inch plate down here so that I didn't lose weight. But I just put it lower and further forward just
for the weight and balance.
just because, yeah, I knew the truck worked well, so I didn't want to take weight off of it, especially forward. So then I put it down low and down there, and like I said, the way it's set up is all my weight is forward of the rear axle, and I keep the rear light because when I pick a rig up, that's where I get my weight from. But I want to keep the weight weighted to the front. I get so many people that are like, well, you know, when you were climbing that hill, your front end went up, so you should put tractor weights on the front. It's like I was climbing out of Elephant Hill holding a Jeep behind me. Yes, the front wheels came off the ground. I could put another car on the front and it's gonna come up. Like, but you gotta figure out, like this weighs 7,000 pounds right now. If I keep adding weight to the front and I keep making it heavier, that's more weight it's having to haul over the obstacles by itself. Right. So I've just got it.
The design.
Yeah, I've got it tweaked and I've changed the wheelbase a few times, stretched it out, and done different custom leaf springs to move the rear axle back to make it climbs better, it handles better. Like when I first started building the truck, it was a shorter wheelbase because we thought we were going to wheel it. And so it did really good, but it had issues here, there, and there. So we've slowly stretched and tried different things, and now I've got it dialed into where it seems to work really well. And like I said, it has limitations, but as long as you drive it within those limitations, it does great.
You guys, when I was out, we didn't have any like major. We pulled one guy out, a couple guys out of the sand.
Yeah.
A guy with a broken front
Yeah,
end
the
or
pitman
something.
arm
Yeah.
that he broke.
Yeah, which actually I think you had the part with.
Yeah, we took the part in and fixed it.
So, even better.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, this thing is a tank. No, it's more than a tank. It's a Trailmater.
It's a sporty tank.
It is a sporty tank. Yeah, I love it. All right, well, cool, man. I am so glad that we ran into each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how do people get a hold of you? How do they find you on YouTube?
Well, we've got Trailmater on YouTube. We've got Trailmater.com. We'll get you to the website to where you can buy a shirt. You can contact us for recoveries.
Model right here.
Yeah, look at that, look at that.
Trailmater shirt.
Yeah.
That.
That's a good one right there.
Off-road recovery and trail repair.
Yeah.
So, Trailmater.com?
Trailmater.com.
Or Trailmater on
YouTube. And like I said, the .com will take you to, it gives you our phone number for the shop to get a hold of us for recoveries, for whatever. Yeah, that basically gets you to us.
Somebody's watching. What is that number?
That is 435-259-1109.
Write it down in case you're in Moab and you find yourself in a pickle. Maybe even on the pickle.
Got a pickle on the pickle.
Yeah.
We've done it.
I've seen people get the pickle on the pickle. All right. That's it for this episode here with Rory Irish, man. That was great.
No.
Thanks for the time, man.
Thank
That
you.
was fun.
Good time.
Little flashback. All right. See you next time.